The metaverse is emerging as the next big technology platform and promises to be the next frontier for human experiences on the internet. Into the Metaverse covers companies, technologies, and trends that are bringing these promises to life. Join creator and host Jonathan Ross-Friedman, founder and CEO of Super Social, as he interviews the brilliant minds that are building, shaping, and investing in the Metaverse.
Welcome back to another episode of Into the Metaverse. This week, Yon and I are back to deep dive into Roblox's 2023 results and the outlook for the company in 2024. And even though this episode was supposed to be only about Roblox, because we had some big news yesterday in the broader Metaverse, we'll also touch on that at the end and just break it down and give our quick thoughts. Straight into Roblox. They have a lot of initiatives going on around advertising, e-commerce, AI, and more. These are all coming to fruition in 2024. This positions the company, we think, for another year of solid growth, profitability improvements, and increasing payouts to developers, most importantly for a company like Super Social. So with that, let's get right into it. Let's discuss the year that was and some more thoughts on 2024. Remember, you can go back and listen to all of our episodes, including our episode from December, where Yon and I did a full 2024 preview for Into the Metaverse, and we discussed a lot of the items that we're going to talk about today much more in depth. So if you're looking for more depth, more content, go back through the feed and check those out. Some key highlights I want to call out from the Roblox report to kick off the conversation that stood out to me from the numbers. So in Q4 2023, Roblox had 71.5 million daily active users. That's a new record. There's going to be a lot of records in this list. In Q4 2023, Roblox had 15.5 billion hours of engagement, a new Q4 record. For 2023 overall, 60 billion hours of engagement, a new record. For the fourth quarter, 15.9 million monthly paying users. That's also a record. So we're talking about record users, record engagement, record monetization, and again, most importantly for developers, Roblox paid out almost $825 million in cash to developers in 2023. That's my dorky finance adjusting for balance sheet machinations number. That's not the number in the P&L. That's also a new record. So Yon, whether from those numbers or anything else you saw, what stood out most to you? Let's get right into it.
You know, I think that the results are a testament to just the consistency of execution by Roblox. On the product side, they continue to expand the platform. They are a pure play metaverse company, and they're focused on building one product, one environment, one platform, all culminated at empowering creators to build the very best experiences in 3D for Roblox's growing community. Roblox's flywheel is so strong, and it's also so simple, right? Really strong technical tools and capabilities provided to developers who build great experiences, and more content will drive more users entice Roblox to continue and expand its platform with more capabilities for more developers who create more content that users love and so on and so forth, right? So that flywheel works, and it's been working for a long time. This is not new. This is a flywheel that has been perfected and expanded by Roblox for the past 10 plus years. And I think what we're seeing now is, really after 2-3 years of heavy CapEx investment from Roblox in really building up their capabilities, infrastructure, servers to accommodate for a audience that is almost 3 times bigger than what they had in 2020 when they started the year. We're now seeing the fruits of that, where Roblox is saying that they will continue to generate attractive operating income. However, they're also saying that they will continue to reinvest it in the growth of the platform and making sure that investors feel okay that there are going to be net losses, but Roblox will continue to be operating, positive cash flow that is very attractive. And so all of that really ultimately for me means that when I look at some of the key components, when I think about Roblox's growth, I look at, do we have consistent growth of user base? The answer is yes. Now, growing from 70 to 1.5 quarter after quarter, it's okay, right? So obviously the platform continues to grow year over year, but I think I would like to see how Roblox accelerates the growth of user base to get to 100 million daily active users over the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's going to be a major KPIs for them in order to unlock a bunch of different things. Growth of user base will ultimately also attract more brands to spend even more money in marketing and advertising and connecting with the audiences. But they are showing consistent growth of user base. They're also showing consistent growth of the developer payouts, meaning Roblox is paying more every year for developers, right? That means developers, of course, you have more developers now, but it's still consistently grown with revenue and bookings of Roblox's platform. Developers are able to make more money. That being said, I think it really is critical that there are going to be more opportunities for how companies like Super Social are able to, generate and sustain a business on the Roblox platform. And the more revenue opportunities Roblox can provide, the more they will be able to continue and attract not just small developers, but also companies like Super Social, seeing Roblox as an attractive platform to operate and build a business and grow. The areas that I think obviously needs to be improved and proven by Roblox is the aged up demographic. We need to see how Roblox is able to continue and retain aged up demographics. They're showing 58% of the platform users now are above age 13, which is great. But obviously we need to see even greater percentage of that over time of 17 plus. And then lastly, international monetization continues to be relatively low, which means that a small percentage of users in North America, about 25% of the Roblox users in North America, generate more than 65% of the total spend on the platform. That really needs to start balancing itself out to make sure that international users are monetizing, because that's going to be important to attract more brands globally as well, and ultimately make sure that aged up demos are not just in North America, but they're also globally. So these are some of the things I'm looking at.
You hit on a lot of good points. I'll just dial back to one thing you said, talking about the aging up of the platform, right? And I wrote some numbers down specifically on this point. The over 13 daily active users, as we're thinking about brand engagements and advertising, right? Only over 13 users can see advertising. So, over 13 DAU is now approaching 60% of total DAU. There was a period a couple years ago where this was less than 50%. So the platform is aging up successfully. And also, the DAU of these over 13 demos is growing faster than the overall DAU. It's growing nearly 30% year on year. And the hours per day from this cohort remains steady as well. So this is a faster growing cohort. It's highly engaged, and it's increasingly a larger percentage of the total DAU. So that's also really encouraging from a business perspective. You kind of alluded to some of the profitability metrics as we turn from operating to monetization in the financials. A few more numbers to call out that I wanted to highlight. For the year in 2023, Roblox bookings reached $3.5 billion, another new record. For 2024, they're guiding to 20% growth, which gets them to $4.2 billion at the midpoint. We'll see what their guidance works out to be. Roblox is a relatively new public company. A lot of companies in gaming tend to be highly conservative with their guidance. So, if Roblox kind of follows that strategy, that could be a low ball estimate, and they could well come in above that. Adjusted EBITDA grew 21% in 2023 to $432 million. To your point, about they're going to have negative net losses, but adjusted EBITDA and free cash flow are kind of proxies for cash profits that people look at. This is expected to grow 31% in 2024 based on the guidance, with margin improving over 100 basis points, which is in line with their long-term plan to grow margins. Although ARPDAU was flat for the year, it did reaccelerate in the fourth quarter. That was a big talking point on the earnings call, and that's important as all these monetization levers start to really kick in. And then lastly, as you mentioned, free cash flow was positive in 2023. They generated $124 million versus burning $58 million the prior year. So, I think you talked about you briefly alluded to the fact that they're generating cash flow, they're self-sufficient. Anything else you want to add on the financials here?
Nope, all clear. Good overview.
Cool. And then looking ahead to 2024, lots of big initiatives in play. We've got things like advertising, more AI initiatives, real world commerce coming. Specific to what they discussed on the call, because e-commerce wasn't discussed at all, but it was really focused on advertising and AI. But anything stand out in particular to you that caught your attention from some of the questions from the analyst community?
I think, the analyst community has been very focused on bookings and obviously the spend that Roblox has been investing over the last few years. So, I haven't heard anything from analysts that I haven't heard before. They're continuing to focus on fundamentals. I think the key skepticism and concern I believe analysts have is really Roblox's ability to generate, significant cash from their operating activities over time and ultimately reaching profitability. So it seems like the community hasn't really cared that much about it now. And I wonder at what point they will come back to that.
Yeah, I mean, profitability is a big sticking point. It's the whole, it's everything that kind of everyone's been focused on aside from AI the last, call it 18 months in financial markets. So it totally makes sense. If you kind of pull out your VC SaaS playbook, Roblox is almost back to the rule of 40 also. if you assume that the guidance is a bit conservative and they grow closer to 25% next year, margins come in mid-teens. They're pretty much back to the rule of 40. For those that don't know, rule of 40 is you take your revenue growth rate, you add it to your profit margin metric, usually adjusted EBITDA, and that should be at least 40%. And if it's not, then it's not a great investment. That's kind of always been the rule of thumb for venture capitalists. So if a company is early stage and burning lots of money and has a minus 50%, they need to be growing 90% to be, that's kind of the rule of thumb. So Roblox is almost there. That's a good sign. They definitely seem much more focused in the last couple quarters overall on profitability, on sustainable cash generation. And this is great for investors. It's also great for brands investing in the platform, right? Because if you're a brand investing in Roblox, you want to make sure that A, they can execute on the product roadmap that they've identified, and you're going to be comfortable that the return you're expecting from investing in the platform you're going to get. And B, you want to also just be sure that this company is going to exist over the next several years. You don't want to be making bets on platforms that have a lot of risk. So the company getting to self-sufficiency on a cash flow basis, being more profitable, is also really good for brands. I also just want to discuss briefly AI. They rolled out auto text translation a couple days before the earnings call. I think they alluded to a lot more AI features to come, generative AI tools for, image and feature generation are, kind of rolling out, slowly on the platform. I think overall AI is going to be a really big tool that's going to be really powerful. Some of it you won't see, like for example, auto text translation. The average person won't experience that, won't interact with it necessarily in terms of the code, but the ability to help transform Roblox more from a gaming platform to a social platform. Tools like that are really powerful.
Yeah, look, I think that generative AI initially is already being deployed in a much more effective way for development. I think this is where you're obviously seeing Roblox prioritizing, starting with developers, incorporating it into the engine so developers can have a strong co-pilot in development. That's the assistant. So I think that's amazing for developers. I think level 2 is going to be, how do you make that available for more as part of the in-experience creation, still focused on developers, right? How does a small number of people can still use generative AI to enable great interactive experiences with generative AI? The road to making generative AI absolutely applicable and available to users and players, I think that's a very long road to go, just because the cost is enormous, right? I don't see, if you want to subscribe to ChatGPT, you pay something like, I don't know, $20 a month or something.
40.
40 now? Okay, cool. Well, I don't see Roblox's users paying $20 a month to use or even $5 or $10 a month. So, and I think Roblox obviously understands that, and I don't envision any of that things being introduced. Potentially in the future, I wouldn't rule out seeing maybe developers offering that type of experience inside their games, and they will charge as a subscription for their users. If users want to use that inside particular experiences, maybe, right? That can become a slightly different approach for how Roblox can deploy that. But yeah, I don't see kind of anytime soon a full rollout, platform-wide rollout of a generative AI, capabilities for players and users anytime soon. Maybe later down the line, but the value to developers certainly with a co-pilot or a Roblox assistant is immediate, and will become kind of a major thing to accelerate development, make your developers smarter, and potentially increasing the pool of who can become a developer.
And just to wrap up the Roblox conversation, the stock did pop about 10% yesterday. We're recording this the day after the earnings. It was a well-received report for all the reasons we highlighted: solid operating metrics, solid profitability, the guidance for 2024 pointing to further profitability improvements. So, the market really liked that. The market liked that story, and the stock went up. It's, one day doesn't make a trend. A lot of things have to happen for them to continue to execute and grow into the valuation that they already have, let alone continue to increase that valuation. But, clearly this was a step in the right direction. So now we're going to shift gears really briefly. We have to talk about Epic Games and Disney. It's a huge deal. It happened the same day as Roblox's earnings. For those that are living under rocks and missed this, which I don't think anyone does, Disney's investing $1.5 billion into Epic. Just sidebar, I'm kind of immune to $1.5 billion VC investments nowadays, because I feel like we've seen so many 9-figure, 10-figure VC deals at this point. But so Disney's investing $1.5 billion into Epic, to take an undisclosed equity stake in the company. Epic will help build Disney immersive gaming experiences, highlighting many of its brands like Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars. Notably, the metaverse word, the M word, was not mentioned at all in any of the press release, on the on the call where Bob Iger, or TV interviews with Bob Iger was talking about this. He fully is focused on gaming and immersive gaming. This seems really much in lockstep with what Lego did with Epic, right? In the sense where Lego invested, I believe, $1 billion into Epic. 12, 18 months later, whatever it was, Lego Fortnite comes out. It was a pretty solid success out of the gate. But if you actually look at like the CCUs lately, it's kind of died off pretty fast. So so I'm curious how you think about this, how you think about Epic's, let's call this second party AAA game development strategy for, really iconic IP houses.
Yeah, look, there's a lot to unpack. I think first and foremost, certainly a big bet, $1.5 billion. I mean, if you think about it, Disney bought Lucasfilm for about $4 billion. Disney bought Pixar for about $7 billion. Disney bought Marvel for about $5.5 billion. So this is not insignificant. And it's hard to believe that through this transaction, Disney owns anywhere. It's certainly not more than 10%, right? So, it's probably somewhere in the 2.5 to 10%, depending on the most recent valuation of Epic Games. So it means it's a minority stake. They will have no control, no say on the direction of the company at large. And also what's not clear, how much of the 1.5 billion actually is equity financing versus like Epic using that money to develop the Disney universe. Regardless, very smart, very bold. I think, the right move for Disney. Epic has a really great fit for Disney. Disney already uses the Unreal Engine in multiple TV show developments, most notably The Mandalorian. And also we know that Disney has issues with the DNA of the Roblox platform as a UGC platform. And therefore we haven't seen any official Disney bespoke game world. We've seen some advertising, but we haven't seen Disney launching a game world on the Roblox platform, let alone a Disney universe. So it seems like Epic is the bet that they're making. Certainly, it's not going to be inside the Fortnite creative. It's going to be a Fortnite ecosystem experience. To your point, Matthew, most likely very similar to what Epic has done with Lego Fortnite. And actually, they did in the press share a little teaser demo. It kind of shows this very, very expansive multi-zone Disney universe. And you can imagine how it's going to look and feel very much like a virtual representation of Disneyland, with zones of engagement that are inspired by IP and characters and different games and different events and different. So it's pretty clear, at least at a high level, like what we should expect. Where the rubber meets the road is going to be, what is the purpose of a lot of these games? Is it about generating revenue? Is it going to be a promotional tool? Is it going to be both of these things? I think that's where it's really unclear what's the business objective for Disney. Potentially a combination of all of those things. But I think what it means for the Fortnite ecosystem, and especially for Fortnite creative community, is this is clearly a direction that Epic is pushing on very hard. Meaning Epic is going to most likely close more and more and more prime, premium, top tier, tier one IP to come into the Fortnite ecosystem. But they're going to do it in a very selective way, and they're going to do it in a way that is similar to what they've done with Lego Fortnite, right? This is going to be a game world, a collection of properties that they're going to develop, they're going to build. They're not going to hand it over or delegate it to the Fortnite creative community. They're not, at least not in my mind. Or maybe it's going to be a combination of both things, but they're going to build it. It's going to be, to a large extent, a second party AAA-like development. Maybe it's not going to cost $50 million per game, but it's going to cost several $1 million per game, just like most likely it took with Lego Fortnite, which was in development probably for about 2 years, I would assume. So all of that is to say, Epic continues to play multiple pronged strategy here with their Fortnite creative ecosystem. They have Fortnite the game, and they have the owned and operated maps, like the Battle Royale map that they own, and they have 100% of the revenue. They then have the third party UGC Fortnite creative that is quote unquote a competitor to Roblox, which is still early. Sure, they introduced just an analytics product, but it's still early. And it's unclear how much resources they're putting in order to really accelerate the development of that ecosystem, the developer tools, and really turning it into a platform, which at the moment it's not. It's more of a game with modding rather than a full-fledged UGC platform. And then you have in between the second party development and publishing that with Disney Universe, it seems more of an expansion for what they've done with Lego Fortnite. And so I think that multi-pronged strategy, what I think is going to put even more pressure on how can they justify that Fortnite Creative is a big enough opportunities for businesses like Super Social. Maybe for individual developers, it's fine. But for businesses to build, for studios to emerge and grow, I think that is a big question mark. It remains to be a question mark. And that's not to say that I think it's impossible that they're going to be able to be very successful with all the three strategies, right? First party, second party, third party. I just means that it's going to take even longer period of time, and it raises the question mark on how to make sure that there is justification economically for, companies like Super Social to come in and build, attractive, scaled, compelling businesses.
Yeah, I would add three things. I mean, number one, for Disney, a lot of people are saying this is a huge strategy shift. I think the market's reading this as a narrative change. The stock's up over 10%, but I actually think this is it's a large equity investment, but I think for Disney, this is in keeping with what they've done in gaming the last several years, IP licensing. They got out of making their own games in 2016 when they shut down Infinity. And since then, they don't want to make games. They sold Fox Next when they bought Fox, which was Marvel Strike Force, right? So they have no interest in making games at this point, but they want to have presence on gaming platforms, immersive platforms. Now they're doing it through IP licensing. And I think they've also seen recently with the Star Wars Survivor, the Jedi games, right? These are also very powerful ways to expand the canon in the universe rather than just being ride-along games to movie releases, which is what they did, a decade ago. These have really been universe-expanding experiences that have been really successful. And I think this is just the next step in that process. And especially when you consider, if you look at Disney's financials, they actually make a lot of their profit dollars from the parks, from the in-person experiences. And so when you start to think about this as potentially a virtual theme park, a virtual center of experiences, I think this is also Disney placing the bet that, their experience business is going to have to evolve and become digitized and take advantage of more immersive technologies. And this is a big part of that. So that's kind of point one. Point two, when I look at Epic, to your point about can they execute on all three things, they are competing with their customers to a degree, right? It's going to be very difficult for them to successfully scale first-party games, second-party games, and build a platform for third-party developers. I mean, it's not like it's undoable, right? Console makers have done this for years, but it is a challenge to build a platform that has all of the benefits and features and share of profit pool for external developers when you're also building games for that platform. So it's a balance they're going to have to walk. And part three, it is just great for Epic to have a partner like Disney. I do think, to your point about scaling this across iconic IPs, this is a strategy that's going to be very tough to scale to hundreds. But if you're talking a dozen or two iconic IP houses, and we're not even talking, Lucasfilm, we're talking Disney, right? So you're not talking, one studio under NBC. You're talking NBC Universal level relationships, right? These are the type of relationships that could be, future partner candidates for Epic Games in this strategy. But this is not going to work for everyone. This is something that's only going to work for these top tier iconic entertainment IPs that really make sense for these immersive platforms. So there definitely
It seems like the entry point is $1 billion plus investment. What we haven't seen yet is anything that Epic is doing with Sony that also invested $1 billion. So that remains to be seen. But it does seem like, Matthew, to your point, and I agree with that, it seems like the second party is really very, very, very strategic relationship. Now, the question is Epic going to do that at lower levels of investment, right? I don't anticipate them doing it for anyone who is willing to put $5 million, but is it $1 billion entry ticket to do that? Potentially. And if yes, it does changes a bit the conversation, which means we may not see too many of those second party properties popping up. So that would be interesting to see also. Is that really a business line that they're building, or really they're keeping it for only organizations that are going to put, $1 billion plus into their cap table?
Yeah. I mean, and in developer resources, right? Like, these AAA quality games take hundreds of people. So it's, it's also tough to scale from a,
I don't think the Lego Fortnite is a AAA execution. I think it's AAA quality, but I think one of the advantages is probably for Epic is that they're not building from scratch a AAA game. They're building something that exists on an existing infrastructure. I would be surprised if Lego Fortnite was more than $5-10 million in spend on talent over 2 years. And I think that makes it very attractive for Epic to continue and do these deals where they can bring in strategic players to their ecosystem. And the $1 billion, although is money, but the impact from a PR standpoint is monumental. But at the end of the day, they need to build successful properties that people want to engage with. And when you talk about Disney, the Disney audience and the Fortnite audience are not necessarily overlapping to a large extent, depending on the properties. So that's going to be interesting because even with Lego, it's unclear how many net new users Epic was able to attract to the Fortnite ecosystem. That's going to be a key thing because the whole premise is expanding the user base for the Fortnite ecosystem, not remaining with the 70% 18 to 25-year-old, male.
Yeah, I think we spent way more time than I expected on Epic Disney, but that was really interesting, insightful breakdown. With that, we're going to wrap up. Thanks for listening today. Always make sure to rate, review, and subscribe our podcast wherever you listen to it. Subscribe to our Substack to never miss our content. And we're looking forward to recording future episodes with you.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Into the Metaverse. We hope you learned a lot and explored new aspects of the metaverse.